Jay,
Sir. Yes, sir.
Kavya is unable to get admitted. I don't know. I have tried to admit her so many times. It is
Yeah,
failing.
even I tried. I don't know why it is happening. One more candidate also, participant.
I'm also admitting multiple times. Hmm.
Putul, now you are online, no? Putul?
I am also admitting. I am online, sir.
Okay,
I am
okay.
trying to admit everybody. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, one more participant, Ujjaini Sengupta, is also unable to join.
Yeah, I know. What is this technical?
Ye- Yesterday I had that same problem. Maybe they can switch off their video if that is possible. Then it is easier. Today I switched off my video and then did it.
Maybe I think their network is slow.
That may be a problem. ಹೋಗಲ್ವಾ admit ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗ?
Is Kavya on phone or on a system? I don't know.
Phone. Yesterday
I
she was
can't
on
even
phone.
call her, I think. Can we call her?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But my phone, it is not getting connected to her.
Shukma, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kavya, are you in?
Yes, I am
Yeah.
in.
Okay.
Now she
Yeah.
is in.
Okay,
But one
okay.
more
I tried with
participant.
PC.
Okay.
Okay.
Somebody, Ujjaini Sengupta, is not able to get in.
Kavya, can you see me?
Yeah, we can see Kavya.
Yes, sir, I can see.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Jacob Paul, sir, welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening, all.
Hello, Jay.
Yeah, Avinash. Right.
Do you want to check with Jose if some of his colleagues in WTI are able to join, considering that you're having some issues?
Joseph is already here, I think. He's joined already. The speaker is joined.
Is he there?
Yeah.
He's not there. I don't know. He's there. Yeah.
Yeah. He is.
Jose, are you there?
Good evening, everyone. This is Jose. I can see you guys, and I hope I'm audible also.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Jose, hi.
Hi. Hi, Avinash. I was actually trying to chat with you on mobile. Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Forever
you.
young.
Huh?
Forever young.
No, I got my voice like directly here.
Jose, some of your colleagues or some of your friends in WTI, are they able to join? No issues with the link?
Let me. I'm in the WhatsApp group. I'll just check with them.
Okay.
But I can see about 104 people already joined the discussion.
Okay.
I am just checking with a few of them in the PTA group. So if there is a problem, some of them will update to me, and I'll inform one of you. I mean, I have my mobile with me, so I can inform you that there is a connectivity issue, something like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll start another 2-3 minutes, sir.
Yeah. But the chat issue, is it solved today?
No, it's the same, but the raise hand option is there. Anukriti will make an announcement on that.
Okay.
Yes. Because participants are still joining, we'll wait for another 2-3 minutes and then. Anukriti, you're there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
I think we'll start because we said 7 o'clock. We have given 5 minutes. I think we'll start.
I'll start then?
Yes, we'll start. We'll go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. The web begin. But before that, there are some general guidelines that we request you to follow. All mics should be on mute so as to avoid static noises in the background. The participants who are attending this webinar from YouTube and Instagram, please type your name and institution you belong to in the comments. The participants using MS Teams can ask their doubts during the Q&A session by using raise your hand option, and our moderator will communicate your names to the speaker, where you can unmute yourself and ask the question. And those who are streaming this webinar from Instagram and YouTube live can type your questions in the comments, and our moderator will communicate the same to the speaker. Now, I request Alan to introduce our speaker for the evening. Over to you, Alan.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Jose Louise. Mr. Jose is the Chief of Wildlife Crime Control Division of the Wildlife Trust of India. He has been working in the field of wildlife crime management since 2005. He has worked across the country understanding illegal wildlife trade in various animal species. Mr. Jose has also trained enforcement officials in India and internationally on wildlife crime investigation and field operations. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. The forum is yours.
Thank you, guys. Good evening, and I hope I'm audible and visible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can someone give me a answer?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'll
Yes.
start my screen. And then once we know that everything is all right, we'll continue with the talk. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's visible, sir.
All right. So let me start, and I hope the audio is clear and the video is good. I'm trying to connect from Kerala, and my internet connection, I hope it will remain stable and good till the end of this meeting. If there is a problem, one of your organizers can ping me or pause in between and let me know that there is a problem. All right.
Alan will communicate. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Will do.
Hello?
Am I?
So I think the connection is a
So
little
we
weak.
are going to talk about the. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You are audible now, but a little while back, your voice broke, so we weren't able to hear what you said.
Okay. No, fine. I was just checking it, and if there is a problem, one of you can ping me on my mobile so that I know that there is a connectivity issue. So
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for joining this session on illegal wildlife trade and the challenges we face across the country and probably across the globe about wildlife trade. Um, So we talk about wildlife crime. It is not just the species problems or people think that it is just affecting one or two species, but we should understand that wildlife crime is a complex crime in its nature, and it has got a serious connection with other organized crimes like fake currency, black money, tax evasion, corruption attempts, narcotics, illegal arms. All these things are connected with wildlife crime because many times when we think about wildlife crime, a lot of us have this perception that wildlife crime is about a poor man trying to hunt something and eating something or killing a wild or a retaliatory killing. That is what most of us think about. But I would like to remind you that wildlife crime is one of the top organized crime syndicates in the world. It is probably worth $20+ billion every year. So there is a lot of money. There is a lot of organized criminal activities happening in wildlife crime. As this is a session for a wider set of people, I will try to be bit general about what is happening. And maybe during the question answer session, you guys can ask me questions. I'll try my level best to answer what I know about. Yes, today when we are sitting, most of us are sitting at our homes and trying to deal with this lockdown and trying to understand what is happening around. So that also has an interesting connection with wildlife crime. I highlighted something: spread of diseases in wildlife crime. Most of you know that by now it is very clear that the origin of coronavirus has some sort of a clear connection or a clear link with wildlife trade. Till few months back, nobody talked about or searched about wet markets in internet. But when the COVID outbreak started, everybody was searching for wet markets and pangolin, interestingly, and illegal wildlife trade. Scientists across the world started, churning out papers on illegal wildlife trade and the connection with wildlife trade. This, and it is a fact that the illegal wildlife trade has a lot of connection with what we are going through today, because it is suspected the coronavirus has originated from one of the illegal wildlife trade market in Wuhan. So what we are looking at is just not just a trade in species, but also a problem which we face in a larger way. We are looking at various types of diseases like SARS or COVID or H1N1. So all this has got some sort of connection with the illegal animal trade happening across the world. So let me introduce you to a few of things happening. Like if I hope all of you can see the screen. We have a lot of different kind of wildlife trade. Like if you look at elephants, elephant ivory is used for manufacturing various objects, or when you look at tigers, tiger body parts are collected to make various products, or snakes are killed for their skin, which is used to make things like handbags. So let's learn a little bit more about what is this trade. Hope all of you can see what is on the screen. This is from India. You can see, and this was in one of the this incident happened. The famous Khaga seizure, which happened a few years back on Indo-Nepal border. From a truck, they discovered or recovered a large number of animal skins. You can look at the number of tiger skins and leopard skins on the screen, and in one photograph. This one photograph itself is a strong reminder that how big the trade was in India, and how big trade is in this country, and how big the challenge is. These are our beautiful animals. These are our beautiful wildlife, which is poached or killed and skinned and taken across our border to other country for consumption. I mean, there is money involved. Each of those tiger skins or leopard skins will cost you a fortune when it reaches the actual end user. So the crime is big. And one interesting thing about this particular seizure, if I'm not mistaken, this was not led by any intelligence or anything. It was a chance seizure. Somebody checked a truck, and then they found one tiger skin or a leopard skin, and then they started searching the entire truck, and they found that in between carpets they were hiding tiger and leopard skins. So this was one seizure. Now imagine how many animals must have got smuggled without we knowing about it. So how big is the trade? How big is the wildlife trade? The wildlife trade is, many people talk about various theories. In my opinion, we don't know how big actually the wildlife trade is, because it's an illegal trade. Nobody is coming and telling you that how much they earned, or how much they spend, or how much profit or how much loss they made in this trade. So there is nobody keeping accounts in this business centrally. So, but still, we say that this is one of the biggest trade, which is sharing its position with narcotics. Narcotics is one of, in the world, it is the biggest illegal trade. Then we have arms and gold business, and then we have wildlife trade. So across the globe, it is the United Nations calculated that roughly it's about $23 billion every year, or $20 plus billion dollars every year. That is what the size of the trade. Now, why this trade is happening? Why there is wildlife trade? I'm not going to talk about all reasons or all driving factors behind the wildlife trade, but few of them. Like, for example, let's talk about medicines. There are a lot of wild animals or animal products which are consumed for medicines, because we think that they have got medicinal value. So let's look at a couple of these cases. So this is a picture which was taken a few years back in China. You can see that there is a huge aquarium behind this not so happy lady who's asking the photographer not to photograph it. The truth is that this is a picture which went viral in Google a few years back. The truth is that the skeleton belongs to a tiger, and that liquid which is in that aquarium, in that glass box, is actually the tiger bone wine. You can see small pillow-like objects in that tank, which is actually herbs. So the Chinese traditional Chinese medicine, the TCM practices, they believe that the tigers has a lot of power, and um, by making this tiger bone wine, they can actually get hold of all the tiger power into the wine, and those who consume it will have a energy booster kind of a situation. So people spend a lot of money to buy this tiger bone wine. So this is one of our beautiful tiger, and this is what happens to it when the wildlife trade hits tiger. Um, Tigers are caught from our forest using traditional traps, and there are specialized people who does this across the country, and they are specialized tiger poachers. They kill our tigers in the forest, and collect the skin and bone, and traffic it to China and Southeast Asian countries. This you can see the close-up of a picture, how they trap tigers. These are traditional methods. These people who actually hunt tigers has got excellent knowledge about tiger ecology, tiger habitat usage, and they set traps at right locations at the right time, and they get their animal and they kill it and they skin it, and they sell it across the border. So what happens to our tiger? The bone becomes the tiger skin become something which somebody wear in a public function. So you can look at the picture of this proud guy who is wearing a tiger skin. This photograph was taken in Tibet in the early 2000s, where actually the community had a culture of wearing animal skins as part of their culture and tradition. So they thought it is a way of showing that you're really wealthy, that you can afford a tiger skin to wear. On the right hand side, you can see there are bones. These bones actually, as I told you earlier, these bones become tiger bone wine, ingredients in the tiger bone wine. So the same thing happens with the leopards across the country. Leopards also get trapped in the same way, and leopards are sold for leopard bones and the skins are sold in the market. This is a photograph taken again in one of the Tibetan markets. You can see where our leopards, and also there are two otter skins in this picture. So this is what happens to our large cats. Our large cats are hunted for their skin and their bone and their body parts, which is used in traditional Chinese medicines largely. In India, many people think that do we have a domestic market for products from tiger and leopard? Unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't have any such markets within India where we consume tiger or leopard products. It is largely for export purpose only. We also have problems with conflict. Like we all know that tigers and elephants get into conflict with the people. I'm not getting into the details of it, but this is also a crime which is happening in our country. That, for example, the tiger on the screen, you can see that there was a tigress which was poisoned by the people because she killed a cattle. So our large cats are actually facing problems. One, for their body parts. Second thing is it's conflict related killing. On the right, you can see an elephant which got entangled in an electric line. The elephant actually, nobody killed it actually, but it was an accident where an elephant came into somebody's farmland or farm, and there was an electric line, and the elephant got entangled in the electric line while it was crossing the plantation, and it got killed. So conflict is also another major reason for our animals, wild animals, getting killed. I hope it is audible and visible. I'm assuming that, and I'm going ahead. So let's go from tigers to one of the other iconic and beautiful animal of India, the one-horned rhinoceros. our northeastern state Assam has got a good population, and also West Bengal have got some population, and also in UP there is a rhino population right now. Well, that's a very happy rhino in the morning, and you can look at the difference. The rhino horn is one of the prized thing in the illegal wildlife trade. Um, this photograph was taken in Kasiranga, where a rhino was shot by the poachers, and they scooped this horn off, and then after few minutes the rhino was conscious, and it was walking around with a bleeding face. Um, all for uh, all for the horn. People believe that the rhino horn has got some medicinal value, and just because of that, rhinos get killed in our forest. Places like Kaziranga has got very strict rules that if you are an intruder into the park, you can be shot dead by the park officials. But still, people try their luck. After a long month's gap, a month back, there was a rhino poaching in Kaziranga, and the poachers who came to Kaziranga actually used AK-47 guns to shoot the rhino down, and you can see that what kind of risk these people take to do poaching, because there is a lot of profit in this business. So, why so much of demand for rhino horn? It is economics, simple economics. The rhino horn is costlier than gold and platinum in the international illegal market. So if you put a kilogram of rhino horn, and if you put a kilogram of platinum or gold, per gram value or per kilo value, the rhino horn is much more costlier than gold or platinum. So it is, for a lot of criminals, a lot of people who operate in the front line, it is worth taking that risk. And let me tell you, the people who actually do the poaching, or actually take the risk and come and shoot a rhino, and spend time, risk their lives, and come to the forest and shoot a rhino, they don't get this kind of big money. They get pittance. It's exactly like the drug trade. Those who manufacture get a very little amount of money, but the people who actually profit in this trades are the people who are the middleman, or the people who are controlling the syndicates. They make a lot of money by transporting these goods from one place to another place. So one of the major thing which is driving this kind of illegal wildlife trade is the profit involved in these businesses. So rhino horn is a very high value commodity in the illegal wildlife trade market, and India is one of the target countries where rhino is killed for its horn. This is another unfortunate picture from Kaziranga. They killed a rhino, and you can see that cruelty behind this trade and this kind of practices. People, the poachers are not very kind-hearted people. They come, they shoot, kill, and they collect the body part and they disappear. Same thing about the bears. The bear bile is one of the key ingredients in traditional Chinese medicine. Even recently, during the COVID outbreak, there were news about the Chinese authorities are actually promoting the use of bear medicines which has got bear bile as the ingredient to treat COVID. Trust me, there is no big medicinal value for bear biles. Some of the diseases which can be treated with simple medicines, that is what they try to treat with bear bile, or use bear bile as an ingredient. If you look at traditional Chinese medicine, bear bile is an ingredient or a medicine for many things, like jaundice, headache, even a bad stomach. They use bear bile as a traditional thing. Many people ask that is there a scientific reason behind, or a scientific proof behind these things? Well, the modern science is unable to find any proof that some of these things are very effective. Or we have to look at that, some of these things can be, some of the diseases can be treated with simple medicines. You don't need to kill an animal and collect his body part just for medicinal purpose. The bear farming was on the right hand side. You can see picture. Bear farming was a practice in China, where actually live bears were milked. Imagine that they put a simple tube into a wound of an animal. The wound is never healing, and the bear is kept in a squeeze cage throughout its life. And every day they just go and tap a little bile, which is collected in a small container. The animal is alive, the wound is open, and they keep on collecting bile. I mean, there is a lot of cruelty in wildlife trade. So our sloth bears and Himalayan black bears, our bear species are targeted for this particular trade. From medicine, let's get into something interesting, which is fashion. Animal parts are used in the high value industry, fashion industry across the world. Well, the best example, probably the best example in the world is the story of Shatush, the costliest shawl in the world. A Shatush shawl can cost you about 3 to 4 lakhs in the Indian market, and about 7 to 8 lakhs in the international market. You can see this lady is wearing a beautiful shawl. Definitely it will keep you warm. It is very soft. You all must have heard about this story of a shawl which can pass through a ring. Shatush can definitely pass through a ring. Also Pashmina, which is the poorer cousin of Shatush. But it is a status symbol. Shatush is a status symbol. People use Shatush because it shows that you're wealthy, you're rich enough to afford a Shatush shawl. Many celebrities used to use Shatush shawl in India. My organization, Wildlife Trust of India, started a campaign in the early 2000s to ban the use of Shatush by the rich and famous. A lot of people came forward and said that they were not aware about the cruelty behind the Shatush trade. Each shawl is made of Shatush wool, the wool collected from the Tibetan antelope. But you must be thinking that what is wrong? I mean, we use we collect wool from sheep, but here there is a small difference. Here the wool is collected, or the hair is collected by killing the animal. Chiru, or Tibetan antelope, is a wild animal. It is not kept in captivity, or it is not domesticated, and the animals are killed in thousands or hundreds of thousands every year to collect the wool. And it comes to India, it comes to Srinagar, it comes to Jammu Kashmir, especially Srinagar, for the weaving, because the weaving technology, or the weaving technique, or the weaving skill is available only in India. So this is the Tibetan antelope, and this is actually a photograph which was taken long back by one of my senior colleague during the study about the Shatush trade. The wool is here in front of you. There are different qualities of wool. These people actually trade in wools in Jammu Kashmir. The wool is collected from Tibet and brought to Jammu Kashmir, smuggled to Jammu Kashmir, and people use this wool to make this beautiful shawls. So these are photographs collected during those studies. You can see that women are actually turning this wool into yarns, and then the yarn into this most expensive shawls. So this is, probably animals are killed within the country, but a criminal syndicate, an industry, is operating based on wildlife killing. The Tibetan antelope is killed in the Tibetan plateau, and the wool is smuggled through Nepal or directly from Tibet to India. It is changed hands. The wool is very costly. I mean, 50 grams of wool can cost you a few thousand rupees, and about 150 grams or 100 grams of wool can make a nice shawl. So the middleman, the trader, the weaver, everybody is making money out of this business, and the wool is exported from India to other countries, illegally smuggled. So you can look at the collective criminal nature of the trade. This is a seizure in UK. So you can see that there are marks on the shawl which will trace it back to a particular trader or a supplier. And trust me, this wool, this shawls are really expensive, and only very rich people can afford this Shatush shawl. And please understand that beautiful shawl has a really not so beautiful story behind it. approximately 3 to 4 animals are killed for making one shawl, and at every level of this business there is criminals involved, because they smuggle this wool, they sell it illegally, they manufacture they prepare the shawl illegally, and they export it illegally, and people buy it illegally. So it is actually supporting, this kind of trade is supporting a lot of illegal businesses across the world. These are photographs from Tibet, where animals are killed. I mean, look at this. These are photographs from Tibet, where people went for a hunt, and they killed a large number of animals and collect the pelts just for making this expensive shawls. All right, so I'll take you from there to another animal, pangolin, which is probably the most infamous or famous animal in the wildlife trade these days. Everybody is talking about pangolin, and you must have come across with articles talking that the pangolin is finally having its laugh, because in last 5 years across the world, or 5 to 6 years, this animal became the most trafficked animal on planet Earth. From every habitat, every place across the world where pangolins were found, they were captured, they were smuggled to Southeast Asian countries by wildlife traffickers. Not in small quantities. There were shipments, truckloads or container full of pangolin, live pangolin or pangolin scales from African countries to China, because Chinese people wanted, or Southeast Asian country people wanted pangolin scales for various purposes. They used it in their medicine. We suspect that they use it in some sort of food preparations. Whatever is the reason, in last 5 or 6 years, pangolin became the most trafficked wild animal in the world, and the world was talking about how to save pangolin. And suddenly that this COVID outbreak happened, and studies pointed a finger towards this very pangolin trade, saying that the virus must have originated or sort of mutated between pangolins and bats and stuff like that. So pangolin is facing a big threat as of now. Hopefully, now after the COVID outbreak and all, the demand for pangolin meat or pangolin scale must be going down, and we will be looking at a better future for pangolin. Yeah, as I said, pangolin scale looks like this. The left side photograph is of Chinese pangolin, which is a population found in India also. It is not exactly Chinese, found only in China. This is a pangolin scale, which is held by an enforcement officer of Bhutan. And on the right hand side, you can see the scales. The scales are actually being shown by a hunter from central India, from MP. And they were hunting pangolin because there was a lot of price for the scales. And they admitted that earlier they never used to hunt pangolin, targeted hunting pangolin. Once in a while they used to get a pangolin, but when the scale prices increased, the prices were like per kilo, it was going about 10,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees. And they started targeting pangolins because it was a good way for them to make money. And the trade was well organized. These hunters were approached by middlemen or traders from the smaller cities, and they were given advances and asked them to go to the nearest forest and hunt pangolin and get us the scales. And they were making a lot of money. I mean, the hunter was making money, the middleman was making money, and the middleman was actually transporting the scales to other traders. And India also was a source of pangolin trade. But if you look at this one, across the world, from African countries, pangolin scales were directly going to China. These are studies done by international agencies, which indicated that pangolins are actually going to China, and China was one of the major consumer country. Yes, we had a lot of problem with pangolin trafficking, and hopefully, I say hopefully, after this incident of COVID outbreak, the demand for pangolin scales and pangolin meat may come down. So that's one thing. Let's come back to another animal, elephant. I mean, this is a happy, good-looking, majestic tusker in the wild. But not everybody will look at the elephant and say that it's good to see the elephant. Let me tell you, when there is a conflict, people will look at the elephant and they are scared of the elephant because elephants do raid, farmlands and they create problems. Some people look at the elephant and say that, oh, what a beautiful animal. But some people look at the elephant and look at the tusk and say that, oh, that's about 20-30 kilograms of ivory. So that's what happens when you look at the animal as a product. And what happens to elephants? Elephants get killed across the country for their tusks. This is a photograph where I witnessed the crime scene where this elephant was killed for hardly for 2 kilograms of ivory. The poachers were in the forest and they were on a hunting trip and they found a small elephant with very little ivory, but on that day they were not able to get a big elephant, so they shot this elephant and they were there to collect ivory. That's all. I mean, they shot elephants. And what happens? I mean, across the world. I mean, this is a photograph from Sri Lanka, where a consignment came from African country and it was traveling to other country. They intercepted the consignment and they're finding hundreds of tusks in the container. Why people use ivory? This is you can see on the top. You can see raw ivory. I mean, these are ivory collected from domestic captive elephants or wild elephants, and this ivory is used for on the bottom left first picture is a seal which is used by the Japanese people, henko, which was one of the major demand for ivory. Ivory was used for making these henkos. This is a seal. In the middle, you can see that this is a photograph. I mean, on the middle and the right, beautiful Indian carvings. Like I say, one of the most interesting thing which I have seen is the right side idol, an idol of Ganapati, Vighneshwara. I mean, this is our traditional Indian elephant god, and a statue made in ivory by killing the very living god, and you're making a statue and going and standing in front of the statue and asking the Lord Ganesha that you should not. I mean, Lord Ganesha is famous for ensuring that you will not have any kind of obstacles during the day. But what you're doing is that you cause the actual Ganesha to be killed in the wild, and the ivory is collected, and you pay a heavy price. Like that ivory statue of Ganesha will cost you about a lot of money. I don't want to talk how much money it is, but it will cost you a few lakhs. And then you stand in front of it and pray that Lord, please, Lord, have mercy on me and ensure that I have no problems during that. I don't think gods will answer your prayers when you actually commit larger crimes against nature and against wildlife, and probably against the incarnation of the God himself. So that's what the interesting and complex nature of wildlife crime. That you look at an animal in the wild and you look at its tusk and you see that that makes you profit. And again, here there are poachers, there are people who supply guns, people who transport ivory, and people who actually carve the ivory into these beautiful statues. Everybody makes a lot of money. They don't bother about what happens to the animal or what happens to the nature. So it's all about money. I mean, the ivory business is as good as smuggling gold, and many of these traders made a lot of money smuggling and selling this illegal ivory. One of the major problems of the survival of elephants in the wild. Again, look at the size of that carp. That's a single tusk from a wild elephant, and it's beautiful carving. You can see the art is beautiful, but I don't think the story behind the whole thing is that beautiful. Again, on the left hand side, there is a bangle, or there are ornaments, which are again fashion. These are high value display items. Pure ivory. I mean, many people will look at these things and say that, oh wow, how beautiful it is. I mean, when you actually look at what is behind these things, it is not so beautiful. So elephants across the country, across the world, wherever there are elephant populations, they are killed for their tusks, and it is a big industry. Southeast Asian countries are a destination. European countries are a destination for ivory products. Middle East is a destination for ivory products. Across the world, people would love to buy ivory products and keep, but they don't understand the actual problem, what is happening behind it. So from big animals, let's go to the small animals, like this mongoose. Why mongoose are killed? Mongoose are killed to make brushes. Again, very interesting thing, because you can see a number of different products on the screen. On the left, you can see that that's a typical mongoose hair brush. Many artists vouch by these brushes. They say that this is smooth brush. It will retain the shape. It is you can control the brush. It does not retain the color or the paint in it. It is easy to clean. It's very durable. All that is great, but thousands of mongoose are killed across the country to collect hair. You can see bundles of hair on the right side. A mongoose will give you about 50 grams of hair. And, a recent seizure in UP, there are about 100 kilograms of raw mongoose hair. So you can imagine the number of animals get killed for its brush. So the animals are killed in many parts of the country. The hair is collected. And then again, as I told you earlier, there is a business mechanism which reaches 2 townships of UP, and there the brushes are manufactured and they are exported all over the country and all over the world. Mongoose hair brushes were in very much demand across the world because people never understood the cruelty behind it. People thought that, oh, this is a beautiful looking brush and it's some animal hair, natural hair, and that's all people worry about it. But hundreds of mongoose or thousands of mongoose used to get killed for these brushes. Getting into the details, I hope during the discussions we can get into the details. Tradition and myth. So this is another beautiful story which has a positive ending, at least. The Nishi tribes in northeast of India, they have a beautiful tradition. A Nishi man has to kill a hornbill or hunt a hornbill and get its beak and wear it on his head, and then only he can get married. I mean, there are various customs across the country and across cultures. But the problem is that this is affecting the hornbill population. Everybody wants to get married and they have to go and hunt a hornbill. If you don't hunt, then you ask somebody to hunt it for you, and you pay a price and you get the hornbill beak and wear it. So for your culture and tradition, hornbill has to sacrifice its beak. Unfortunately, there is no mechanism you can remove a beak and another beak grows on a hornbill. So hornbill has to die for your culture. So it is part of their culture. It is part of their tradition. So you cannot go to a community and tell them that tomorrow onwards you should not be using hornbill beaks. So it takes thinking out of the box. Vivek, our head of the organization, WT, always says that conservation is not just science; it is an art. It's an art of conservation. So what happened here? You think out of the box. So this incident happened a few years back. This was one of WTI's initial projects, where actually designers went to this community and discussed with them. Yeah, they need hornbill beaks. So what they have done is that they made artificial beaks, and they taught the youngsters in the community how to make this artificial beaks. So they helped the community. They got some beaks and they created a mold, and they used various material, and they created artificial beaks, and the problem was solved. So this man is wearing one of those artificial beaks, and he gets married because and people love it, because the natural beaks you get only single color and it can get spoiled after some time, but the artificial beak is what do you call, termite resistant and ant proof, and it is widely accepted in the community. Nobody had a problem. So he is a happy man. He is happy. His headgear is in place, and he is wearing the traditional hornbill beak. Yes, the problem is not yet over, because he is also wearing some feathers. I can see a racket-tailed rongo feather on his cap. That's also probably hunted and used. So the problem is not yet over, but that's a good way of taking the positive steps. I would I know that we are nearing the end of the discussion. Presentation time. I would like to talk about a little about the online trade and the emerging big problem which we face. So I talked about elephants, tigers, rhinos. This is an Indian hill myna, and this is being sold in a European market openly in a cage. So the pet trade, the pet trade across the world using internet and the modern technology is becoming a major problem. People want to have various types of pets. The more exotic, the costlier it is. Whether it is small birds, small mammals, or large mammals, things like now it is snakes or spiders. There are a number of new things which are coming in the pet market. This was a few images which we recovered from a trader who was exporting animals across the world, and you can see that there is civet cat, there is a leopard cub, there is peacock chick, and there are hill mynas. Everything is sold. I mean, when we looked at his emails, he was writing to people, the season of peacock is started, or the season of hill myna is started. How many you want? And there were mechanisms to sell this animal. So that's something which I would like to talk about. So what we are looking at today is that the world is changing, like all of us know about. The world is changing and the world is becoming more digital. We are communicating now using internet and Microsoft Team or Zoom. So the same way the wildlife trade is also changing. I mean, it is no more selling tiger bonds or not no more, but the trade is finding newer methods. What we are finding is that reptiles or birds or animal products are being sold online. Digital technology, your Facebook or your WhatsApp or your Telegram, all these communication tools are used as modes for conducting wildlife trade. That's becoming a big worrying business because the complex nature of this trade, the ease of doing business in the cyberspace, and it's very difficult to track the traders and then the buyers and the sellers. And also it connects a trader sitting in India with a buyer sitting in Vietnam or China or Hong Kong within seconds. And you can make online payments, or you can use one of the wallets and or cryptocurrencies. A lot of ways to do trade. This is an interesting study which we have done in 2018. We looked at people who are selling tortoises in Facebook. You have a Facebook profile, you connect with people, you look at the complex nature of this trade. The large, I mean, I'm not getting into the details of it, but the larger darker dots represents major players. There are Indians, there are people from Middle East, there are people from many countries. 3 or 4 of our team members spend hours analyzing connections and using softwares, and they were able to find this network of people across the world who's trading in tortoises and turtles. And there are Indian players, and some of them got arrested later. But that is what is the challenge now. The online trade. I mean, we looked at a couple of species only: spotted pond turtle and star tortoises, and we were able to find a network which is spanning all over the world. So the trade is changing, the challenge is changing, the game is changing very much. WhatsApp is very much used for wildlife trade. Few live examples here. You have a WhatsApp group of people, and this was an incident which we assisted the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau in unearthing this particular racket. You have a small WhatsApp group, and you have people in that, and then you post photographs or videos of illegal wildlife which you have, and then there is somebody who is in the group who is interested in buying, and the trade happens. It's so easy. You post your things in a WhatsApp group. Somebody who wants it will connect with you, and you send them photographs, videographs, and then when there is investigation happens, you get arrested also. The interesting thing is that the moment the suspect got arrested, that people also came to know that this fellow got arrested. the conversation happens in other groups, and they say that the things are happening. So things like WhatsApp and Telegram is used very much for the trade. And please understand that there is a lot of money involved in these businesses. Each of these turtles will cost you 100 or not 100, like thousands of rupees in India itself. So that's a trade. This is another interesting WhatsApp conversation which we looked at. People are selling star tortoises online, large numbers like 100 or 50, how much you need. So the technology is enabling these criminals to connect and engage in this criminal activities, and that is going to be the major challenge. And with the most interesting thing, I will conclude this talk. Like our hardworking scientists discover species across the country. So in 2014, a new species of tarantula. A tarantula is a large hairy spider. Many people look at the tarantula and they scream, and they don't like to see a tarantula, but they're beautiful for a lot of people. A new species of tarantula is being discovered in the Western Ghats in a particular spot by our scientists. And then, like any other good scientist, they publish a paper in an international journal, which is read by a lot of people across the world. The scientific community, people congratulate them for the great discovery, and that's good. Good news for science. Good news for conservation that you find a new tarantula species. But here you go. Few years later, you find a Facebook post that somebody from Poland is sitting in our country, the exact location where the tarantula is discovered, and he is collecting a species. Now, the problem is that this guy must have seen this tarantula discovery in the scientific paper. He is reading science, and he looked at the distribution map, and he booked these tickets. Many of you must be wondering that why he has to do that. I'll tell you why it is. So 2014, you're discovering a tarantula, and 2nd July 2018, somebody this post happened after he went to his country. He is posting that, oh, I've been to that place where they discovered the tarantula and I got some specimens. Why? The tarantula is available for sale online. For $90, you can buy one of that tarantula. Tarantulas actually produce a lot of babies, probably a few hundreds. So you can imagine that the rarest tarantula, which is just discovered in 2014 in Western Ghats in remote part of India, is available in his website for sale. Not only his website, but there were a couple of other people who are selling this. That's what is happening. I mean, look at the price of the tarantula. It cost you one tarantula, one spider cost you $90. People who are buying it. So probably within a couple of weeks of getting the offsprings, he makes a lot of money. And definitely he will be reading, he will be scouting like any other good scientist. He must be scouting other new discoveries of tarantulas or spiders or lizards, so that they can collect it and sell it. So that is what is happening. We have to understand that the wildlife trade is no more what it was, and it has changed. It is evolving. It is the criminal syndicates are looking at the profit. They're looking at where they can make money. This people who are selling the spiders may be making more money than the people who kill a tiger and sell the tiger skin and tiger bone, because this is the new craze. This is the new trend. So that is what we are looking forward. I mean, the trade is changing, the challenges are changing, and the enforcement mechanism and approach also has to change. That's it. Thank you very much. I think I'm open for questions now.
Dr. Putul? Okay. Okay. We have the question and answer session. Dr. Sabita will moderate the session.
I think Dr. Sabita's mic is muted.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have Dr. Paramesh raising his hand. He has a question. Go ahead, sir.
I can't hear anything. I mean, I heard Dr. Jaishankar.
Yeah, I am requesting Dr. Paramesh to ask his question. He has raised his hand. So, participants, please unmute and proceed asking your question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Please introduce, madam.
Thank
Please
you for
introduce
the
yourself and ask your question.
questions. Yeah, I'm giving my P. Nagan, and it's a wonderful session. And my doubt is this spider that's shown at the end of the end of your lecture, is it poisonous, sir?
Yes, it is. It cannot kill you, but it is poisonous. It has got some venom. I mean, not poisonous. It has got some venom. So it is not something which is which should be kept as a pet. But people do keep spiders or tarantulas as pet. That's pretty common in many countries.
Okay, is it used for pet?
Yes, it is kept as a pet. It is kept as a pet like your cat or a dog. Many people consider that keeping a spider is more cool or more happening than keeping a cat or a dog.
Because it is a poisonous one. Doesn't cause any harm?
It is not harmful enough to kill a human being. This one is not that dangerous, but there are some of them which are pretty dangerous. But there are people who keep tigers or even venomous snakes as pets. So the concept of pet is it differ from person to person.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Sir, my name is Karthik Gokhale. I am from Lucknow. I am a student. I wanted to ask if we find an animal already dead in the national park for centuries, and the government itself uses the parts of it in some trade or doing some making some articles. So is it also a wildlife trade?
Well, let me answer that quickly. When an animal dies, as per the Wildlife Protection Act, it becomes the government property. So a dead animal's body part, for example, if an elephant dies and the ivory is there, it is a government property. The owner of that property is the government. So government can use it not for trade. Governments don't trade in wildlife products, but you must be referring to they keep it as a souvenir or a display item in a forest office or something. That's well within the brackets of the law. The dead animal parts, the body part of a dead animal is a government property. But governments don't sell animal articles, wild animal articles to private owners or to other governments. There is no sales happening.
Okay. I also had another question. Can I ask now?
Yes, please.
What are the main reasons that draw the local people to get into this trade, and what can the government do to provide them employment other than this?
See, people get into wildlife trade. Many people say that it is because of poverty. I am not a big supporter of this theory. You cannot say that I'm poor and I get into illegal activities. Many people use poverty or lack of employment as an excuse to get into wildlife trade. In most cases, it is the profit out of the trade or the criminal activity what attracts people towards it. So it is the profitability. It's the lower risk and the high profitability that is attracting people into this one. Government is doing a lot of rehabilitation program for traditional hunters and traditional wildlife traffickers, but we should consider it as a criminal activity. I mean, it should be dealt with the law first and then rehabilitation. We cannot say that, oh, you are poor and you are, there are so many poor people in this country. There are so many poor people across the world, but being poor is not an excuse to become a criminal. Governments are doing a lot of things. I mean, I don't think, uh, that's a major problem, but alternate livelihoods and rehabilitations are options. But the first steps should be, people should not be doing. I mean, people should not be engaging in illegal activities.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Hello, sir.
Uh,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, sir. This is Gomati, a student, a MSc student from Loyola College, Chennai.
Yep.
Sir, my question is, like people are getting educated about what is valuable and what is not valuable, right? That's when illegal marketing is starting, right? So, and based on the research, like whatever paper you publish now, only because of the research publication, there is this illegal marketing that's taken place for the spider. Should we stop this? Should we stop educating people about this in spite of telling it they all play a major role in the ecosystem, like they are keystone species and so on? So people are smuggling on it. So what could be the alternative done? Should we educate people telling it is good or bad? What can be done?
See, educating people or telling the world that you discovered a new species is not a bad thing. That's actually a great thing. But it is the perception of people uh, when I look at a discovery of a new species of a snake or a bird, I'll be happy. But a person who is involved in the criminal trade, he will not be looking at the species diversity. He will be looking at the profitability of capturing that animal and getting some offsprings and making a sale and making some money out of it. So we cannot say that we will hide everything, presence of every animal in this planet. We cannot do that. What we have to do is that we have to ensure that this kind of criminal activities does not take place. So that is very important. I mean, it is a very difficult thing. I mean, when you publish papers, I mean, this was not expected by anyone. People who published the paper was good interest. So, criminal people will always try. It's our responsibility to ensure that this kind of things happen. But what I say is that wildlife trade is a demand-driven trade. If there are no buyers, there will be no sellers. So people should decide that they will not buy any of uh, or even suspect to be a wild.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Kavita ma'am, you're there.
I think Dr. Sabita's mic is muted.
Yeah, we are attempting. No, it is now in the unmute mode. But anyways, Joseph is now yeah. I think I'll
Dr.
proceed.
Parmesh,
Yeah.
Dr. Parmesh, unmute yourself and ask the question, please. Dr. Sabita, am I audible? Unmute yourself and ask the question.
To unmute or to mute everybody. Mr. Jose, you can hear me?
Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Then why others are not responding?
Exactly. I want to know if Mr. Jose can hear our resource person.
Hello.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Shiv Kumar. I think Jose is not hearing you.
Exactly. We need to have a
Sabita
response.
also cannot hear you.
Exactly.
Parmesh cannot hear you.
No, but I think Mr. Jose can hear you, sir. This is Putul. He's
But
doing a thumbs up.
Is it?
Yeah.
Then why is he not? Why is he not audible?
No, he is muted. He can unmute himself.
Yeah. We request Mr. Jose to unmute so that we will ask forward some questions that are there on the YouTube also, where our participants have posted some questions. Yeah. Sir, you can hear me? Mr. Jose?
I can.
Okay. Now we have lots of hands going up here in Microsoft Teams. We will come to them, but we will also parallelly pick up some questions from YouTube. We also have participants there. So we'll go with those questions. Okay. We have Raghavendra Singh. His question is, how can we counter illegal wildlife trade of exotic species?
The answer is very simple. Don't buy it.
Okay.
I mean, when you don't buy, nobody will sell. Kill the market. Simple.
Okay. There's another question from Deepika Singh. What role does the local forest communities play in wildlife trade?
The question is a little vague, but local community, I mean, as per the Indian Wildlife Protection Act, which protects all the wildlife in this country, a protected animal in this country cannot be traded by anybody. It does not give any privileges to local community or an exotic community, except certain tribes in Andamans. Nobody has the right to hunt or trade in wildlife in this country.
Okay. I now request Dr. Parmesh, you raise your hand. Please unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, if Deva Prabha Varsha is ready, you two have raised your hand. You can unmute and ask.
Jay, I think I'll go ahead.
Yes, sir. Proceed, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Jose.
Good evening.
This is Shivakumar from St. Joseph's. Do you think our immigration laws are so weak that people from other countries come and actually collect the animals from our sources?
Sir, it is not the immigration laws. When you come as a tourist to the country, you are not declaring that you are coming there to smuggle something. It is very easy to pick up a spider and smuggle it across our airport because it is not. It may not be visible in the scanners, and all these people who come and smuggle or collect this animals or animal products are pretty. They know how to do it. All I will talk that I will not tell you about the nitty-gritties of smuggling. I don't want people to learn smuggling sitting here. It is not about the immigration laws. Our immigration law says that if you engage in any of the criminal activities, you are in serious trouble. We have good examples, like some scientists came to West Bengal a few years back, and they were collecting some wildlife as samples without permissions, and they were arrested by the forest department, and they were detained, but they managed to escape. I mean, they managed to they actually jumped out of the safe house, and they disappeared to their source country. Our laws are very strict. Our laws does not permit you to engage in any kind of criminal activities with wildlife in this country. And let me add that India has one of the best wildlife laws in the world. The only problem is that we are a little weak in implementing or enforcing this legal provisions.
No, don't you think if the law is not implemented, it becomes useless? Because
yes.
I have seen some of the foreigners, even in our Banerghatta National Park, taking photographs, roaming around freely in the restricted forest area. So it makes no sense that way.
See, sir, law enforcement depends on the officer who is doing the law enforcement. Some places law enforcement is weak. Some places law enforcement is very strong. There are good and bad examples across the country. So we cannot generalize it. The law is very strict. The law is very straightforward. The law is very simple in many aspects to implement. It is up to the enforcement agency. Law enforcement is very strong. There are good and bad examples across the country. So we cannot generalize it. The law is very strict. The law is very straightforward. The law is very simple in many aspects to implement. It is up to the enforcement agency. Law enforcement is very strong. There are good and bad examples across the country. So we cannot generalize it. The law is very strict. The law is very straightforward. The law is very simple in many aspects to implement. Technical error somewhere.
I have a question. May I ask a question?
I think we are facing some audio problem.
I have a question.
Okay, Avinash, please.
Is Jose able to hear me out?
Yes, Avinash, there is some disturbance, but I'll try my level best to capture.
Jose, I think this is for the common interest of, because most of I'm guessing there are a lot of life sciences students attending this webinar, and it's hosted by.
Avinash sir, you've been muted. Avinash sir, you've been muted. Can you please unmute?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, Avinash.
Yes, sir.
Jose, like I said, I mean, there are a lot of life sciences students attending this, and the hosts are again from life sciences departments. There is a tendency of, stocking up or having most of the scheduled animals in the labs. Primarily to create awareness or teach students about animal anatomy and things like that. What is your view on that? And do you think it's still allowed? And what is the status of these already procured items that are bottled and kept?
Yeah, Avinash, I think I had a role in this particular question itself because in 2006 there was an incident in Agra where large amounts of animals were caught from a laboratory supplier, and the State Forest Department that you have this particular specimen in your possession, and as soon part which is protected under the Wildlife Protection Act in your possession, legal procurement, you without article within India. Animal, what I mean is that animal which are protected under the Wildlife Protection Act.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph.
I think Mr. Suraj Goswami was raising his
Good evening,
hand.
sir. May I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. My name is Shikhar Kaushik, and I just wanted to know that the animal parts that are seized by the raids on these wild animals, where do they end once they are consumed by the forest department?
Even within the forest department, from a suspect. As long as the case is going on in the court, it is a case property, and the judge will decide when he can dispose it. I mean, he'll say that okay, the evidence value of this material is over, so it is disposed. It will be given back to the forest department or the government for safe custody. This material is kept in safe custody, and every such recovered animal article is destroyed. That is the practice right now. Skin or governing for scientific institution for the or it will go to a permanent lifetime care center for its lifetime care because it may not officials and the judiciary decide that it can be euthanized. So that is what happens. Nothing is consumed or used as any product. In India, the wildlife products are not traded or auctioned out by the forest department.
Those who are asking questions, please raise, unmute, and then ask the question.
Sir, shall I ask some question?
Yeah, proceed, madam. Introduce and proceed.
Yeah. Sir, what is about stuffed animals? Because in our zoology department, we have so many stuffed animals. Are we go for ownership or something from the forest department?
Yes, madam. If you have stuffed animals in your college, you have to apply for an ownership from the forest department and get the ownership. That is the right way, because many of our education institutions has got animals or animal articles which are stuffed or preserved. As per the provisions or as per the definitions of the act, these things are considered as trophies. So trophy has to be declared and get an ownership certificate, that you have to get in touch with the district forest officers or the state forest office, that is the chief wildlife warden's office, and communicate the same and do the needful.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
please introduce yourself and then proceed asking.
Suraj Goswami in this hand. I have one question. Uh, in India, so many
Can you
policies
speak a little louder?
were launched to conserve the animal and okay. In India, so many policy acts were launched to conserve the animal and plant community. Some of them are Forest Conservation Act and Wildlife Protection Act. But what is the reason of the failure of these acts and policies in India?
The failure is the implementation, as I told you earlier. We are weak at implementing the law. Our laws, if anybody say that our laws are weak, our laws are not weak. Our laws are very different. The problem lies in the implementation of this law, and that is where we are weak.
I have one more question. You gave one example in your presentation, the tradition and culture action of the community affect the wildlife trading. But few community, like community, they conserve the animal community like bus, black buck. So do you agree that tradition can be the tool to conserve many animal community?
See, we as a country, India has probably the best conservation culture and ethos. So don't forget that. We are the probably the only country, or probably one of the few countries, who are conserving our wildlife for the heck of conservation. Many countries, many African countries, many European countries talk about and look at the sustainability. There is a commercial value to everything. There are hunting seasons. People can pay a price and go and hunt. India is still doing conservation just because we have a culture and tradition of conservation. Yes, we also have a culture and conservation tradition of hunting. So many of the traditional protection measures, or many of the traditional many of the practices of communities actually ensure conservation. So definitely communities can have the answers. Many northeastern communities, the tribal communities, still follow their tribal rules and tribal practices and the tribal laws. So they do a lot of conservation, but the fine balance is there when you move from your need to your greed. When you start selling things and when you start making money, that is when the balance goes for it. So as long as this is my personal opinion, this is not the law. As long as a community decides that they want their natural resources for the future, for the next generation, and they consume only what they need, then there is a possibility. But the problem is that as a larger country, there is so much of demand. I mean, somebody from the city goes to a village and demand for a wild meat and give a lot of money for it. That is when the problem. So, community conservation, I mean, we cannot say that community is not part of, or even you, me, we all are part of the whole equation. So we are part of the conservation mechanism. So community has to be involved in conservation initiative. We cannot do conservation. We cannot separate the community who is living inside the forest or near the forest and say that we can do a exclusive protection. No, we have to look at inclusive conservation. You're welcome.
Mr. Jose, there's one question from a YouTube participant.
Yeah.
They want to know if there is any availability of list of animals that should not be traded, probably trafficking, or to be trafficked, not to be trafficked, so that they can share their efforts in preventing wildlife trafficking in future?
Well, I can give you one simple answer. Any animal listed in the Indian Wildlife Protection Act cannot be traded within India or outside India. I mean, you cannot take these animals. If the animal is not listed in the Wildlife Protection Act, it is not protected within the country. One. Two, there is an international treaty, CITES, which talks about, which restricts or which prevents the trade in certain species. So my answer is, if the animal is not listed in the Wildlife Protection Act and if it is not listed in CITES, then there is possibility of trade. You can exchange or you can trade the animal. If the animal is listed either in CITES or in the Wildlife Protection Act, that is against the law and the policies of the country. Both lists are available online. You can download a copy of the Wildlife Protection Act, which is available online, and you can search the scientific name or common name, you will find the animal. CITES has got a very complex list, which is available again in the CITES website. Person can go to the CITES website and take it.
There's another question about your view on having mutant wild animals as exotic pets like albino, python, etc. That's the question.
Well, are we not satisfied with the kind of problems we created already? And are we looking at now mutation and creating more dangerous things around us? Albinoism is not exactly a mutation, but these are collector's items and collector's edition things. My view on that, if it is a wild animal and it has got a right to be in the wild, let it be wild. That is the right place for that animal. Trust me, you cannot replace the kind of habitat and the kind of requirement for an animal in whatever condition you provide it. It is still a slavery and it is still a captivity in your drawing room or in your bedroom, wherever it is. You cannot replace wild and you cannot do that. I mean, my views are very simple. If you want to keep a pet, keep a cat or a dog. That is great, but don't try to keep this exotic mutants. And that is how you start creating the demand. Many people say that, oh, I am keeping a albino green python. What is that? That there are so many of these ball pythons. Well, that is collected from wild. Your demand for a pet is creating a trade. So please don't do it. Learn to watch out and look at a animal in its natural habitat and understand or enjoy the beauty. You don't need to own everything and keep it in a cage to be happy about it.
We have one participant, Kaushal Kumar Patel, raising hand. Please unmute and ask your question. Any other participant who wants to ask can now unmute.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, proceed, madam.
Hello, sir. Yeah, sir. This is an incident where faculty members of, me, myself, and some other members attended a refresher course in Andhra Pradesh, and during that, at the end of the course, they want to, give plants to the members freely, and we too want to have some plants from them, like that of pinus, a pinus plant, but they refused to give us because it is a biopiracy, madam. We don't want to give you because you are coming from Karnataka. Is it correct, sir?
Well, many of our native plants in the wilderness areas are native to that area, and as per the Biodiversity Act, you are not supposed to take plants or orchids from many of the protected areas, and depends on the species. It is definitely it may be such a plant which is not supposed to be taken out from the wild. It is very much possible, and we have to respect that. Uh, like animals, many people have this tendency of collecting orchids and plants from various places, and we build a lot of invasive plants in our ecosystem also. If you look at eupatorium, if you look at senna, if you look at I'm forgetting lantana, these are ornamental plants which were collected. Some of them are ornamental plants which were collected from various places and planted, thinking that they are beautiful, but then they became invaders in our ecosystem. So let us refrain from that. I mean, um, let's look at the plants around our ecosystem and understand that that is beautiful. I'll tell you an incident that my family wants to plant a neem tree in Kerala. I mean, neem tree is not very commonly found in Kerala, but they think that you should get a neem tree and plant it because it is medicine. Yeah, there are requirements from a lot of people, but I don't. It's my personal view. I don't think that you need to do that. You be happy with what is there in the surrounding and try to protect them. I'm sorry, maybe that's
another. Some of the scientists from Chennai, while we are go through with the botanical tour, they want to collect some orchids which are rare that are available in Western Ghats, but nobody prevent them. I mean, stop them.
See, I will look at it in a different way, that you have done it without anybody knowing that you collected it. That is why nobody prevented you. I witnessed this incident many times. People go there, people quietly pick up something and put it in their backpack. But imagine if a forest officer will see that orchid in your backpack, you are in for trouble. So it is a good faith you are misusing. I mean, if you are going as a scientist or as a researcher or as a visitor to a park, you should not be collecting a plant from that park. That is protected. That orchid has all the rights, like an animal, to be there in that. That's part of that ecosystem. You may not be bringing it to the heat of Chennai and surviving it. No, please. So you are actually depleting the population in the wild in the name of collecting. So please don't do that. This is a major problem with many people. I have seen to treks and they will come back with so much of plants. They will uproot small saplings and they say that I'm taking it to. You're taking it to another locality. I mean, how can you take a Western Ghat plant to say to Jaipur and survive it? No, it's not possible. Why are you killing it?
Thank you, sir.
We'll have the last couple of questions. So it's this
I have
question.
one thing. If anybody wants to ask a question, I don't have a problem with the time. It is up to you guys. I'm very happy to answer as many as questions possible because I have nothing else to do. I'm sitting home, like any of you. So please, you guys decide till when you want to go along. I mean, I am ready to answer as much as I know.
Okay, we'll leave it to the participants. If they're ready, if they're ready to unmute and ask, they're most welcome. But I'll go ahead with one question from the YouTube. What can public do to reduce wildlife trafficking? Do we have any website to complain or any WhatsApp number?
You can inform the local forest office first, and there is Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, which is a central agency. They have a website, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau website, and they have a mechanism of information gathering. You can inform them, and they're pretty good. I mean, they do take action. I know a few of the officers, and they have taken action on people posting things in Facebook or even in YouTube, and people complained about it. So that is one thing, that you inform the authorities. Second thing is that be aware about these kind of products and this kind of practices. When you see somebody selling or when you see somebody keeping this kind of wild animals as pets or keeping wildlife or consuming it, tell them and discourage them from using it, and ensure that I can see about 128 people here. If 128 people decide that we don't consume and we don't buy an animal as pet, that's a big decision. I mean, that's how we go ahead. I mean, that's how we will go ahead. Each small step is very important. You can say that I don't keep a wild animal, or I don't allow anybody to keep a wild animal. That's great. That's all. I mean, we cannot make changes in one day, but small steps.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Here Karthik Gokhale again.
Yep.
You mentioned about the human animal conflict in the presentation you presented. So, what are your views on the current scenario and the news popping up about the latest human animal conflicts?
I mean, are you talking about the Kerala elephant incident?
Yeah, that and many more that we always encounter in the news.
Yeah. Human wildlife conflict it was there, it is there, and it will be our biggest challenge in the future. Our fortunately, our number of tigers and elephants in the wild is increasing. Many animal species are increasing, and this will create conflict. And we have to find ways to manage this conflict in scientific manner, and there has to be new policies, there has to be new management practices in place. We cannot avoid conflict at this point of time, but also at the same time I am very much aware and I am very much concerned about the plight of farmers who live next to the forest. Because you imagine that you have an acre of paddy field, and suddenly in the middle of the night elephants come and destroy the paddy field, or wild boar come and destroy the paddy field. That is your income, that is your life, and there will be retaliation, there will be problems. We cannot sit and create a lot of digital noise, because when these kind of incidents happens, I see a lot of reactions from people, learned and ignorant reactions. Many people think that it's a big problem happening outside. Yes, it is a big problem happening outside, and frankly speaking, we don't have a ready-made solution in hand. We really need to look forward for innovative methods to deal with conflict.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a bit, I don't know if I should call controversial. The question is, it's very painful to see the wild animals being hunted in a very brutal way. Isn't it lack of willpower of forest administration and the government, or sometimes the traders are closely associated to them?
See, whenever there is a crime happens, we always point a finger at the law enforcement agency. It's very easy. It's very easy to tell that because of bad policing, the crime is happening. In my opinion, the crime is happening because there is somebody who's a criminal and who wants to commit a crime. Now, any death is death, whether it is using a crude bomb, or whether it is shooting an animal, or whether it is poisoning it. So, law enforcement agencies, especially forest department, has their limitations. I work very closely with them. There are good forest officers and there are bad forest officers. I'm not shying away from this controversial question. So it is up to the people to discourage, because there are many incidents of villages discouraging hunting practices or hunting attempts by outsiders or even their own villages. And there are forest officials, good forest officials, who go out of their way and ensure that wildlife crime is not happening. And like any other community, any other civilization, any other forces, there may be a little, a few not so efficient people who probably close their eyes towards what is happening around. There is corruption, there is attempts to corruption. So that's a problem that we have to deal with it. I mean, we cannot say that it is the problem of the system, and I will blame the system and say that it is they are corrupt and they are not doing it. I will say that how much you are doing to solve the problem. That is the first question. What are you doing to solve the issue? If you just raise your voice and say that there are problems, it is not enough. We have to do something to reduce the crime. You cannot always leave to an enforcement officer to do it. How many times you went and informed? How many times you went and followed up a case? Many people, I mean, we work in conservation. Many people come and say that, oh, this is happening, I'm so much concerned. So my question is that if you're concerned, what are you doing about it? So first do something and then come and talk. I mean, no, I mean, don't take offense in this, but we tend to sit back and relax and think that posting a comment in Facebook or in Instagram or making a tweet is good enough to save animals. No, conservation is not an easy thing. Conservation is, as I told, conservation is a science. It's an art, and it is a lot of blood, sweat, and hard work. It is not as glamorous as what you think, what you see in National Geographic or Discovery. The actual things, I can see a lot of people who work in the field, like Avinash. I know him personally, know about his work. You know, when you go and do conservation work in the field, it's a tough thing. So we cannot always blame people and say that it is somebody else's duty. That's our mentality, that we say that it is somebody else's duty. Let's do something. I mean, let's do our.
Yeah. The next question is about how about regulated trade, such as farming of wildlife, or I will read another question by another participant. They're suggesting that a portion of the tusk can be removed, trimmed. Is this an option?
Well,
Wildlife farming.
I don't want to see a tusker without a tusk in the wild. A tusker is a tusker with its tusk. You cannot say that, I will cut it every year. I mean, you will tranquilize the animal and cut it every year because somebody is there to poach. No. And it is not just, what do you call it? It is not an ornament there for an animal. A tusker has got a lot of use for its tusk. It is something to, it helps in its supremacy in the ecosystem, that it may have to fight with another tusker. It is also used to debark trees to eat eat what it is needed. Or a tusker, I mean, you cannot go and remove everything. So what about a tiger? Then you will remove the tiger skin. So no, that is not the answer. You cannot go and prune every animal. I mean, you cannot go and tranquilize every rhino and remove its horn and say that we save it from the poachers. An animal has its right to have its body parts intact. And animal farming, wildlife farming is it is a thing which is practiced by many countries, but in the Indian situation, I don't think we are yet ready to have animal farms and use it sustainably. We are not yet prepared for it, or we are not yet there.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I'm Krista from Mount Carmel College.
Yeah.
I read this article where conservationists dye the tusks of elephants to prevent poachers. Does that actually help? Does that bring down the value of ivory?
Well, if you dye the ivory in the outer surface, it is not going to deter anybody. I'm not aware about this particular incident, but it is not going to bring the value of the ivory down, because ivory is used for carving, and you may not. I mean, ivory is something which will keep on growing. So, do you think that every year the tusker will come back to you for, okay, now it is my dyeing session, that okay, paint? It is not a practical solution.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, Karthik Gokhale again. I wanted to ask about the trade in marine animals, where we heard about the shark fin trade on surge past 5 years. So how we deal with that, and what are the roles of a country to deal with these trades when the trade is not happening in the region of their country?
Shark fin trade itself is a controversial thing, because it's a complex subject actually. Some of the sharks are protected under the laws, some of the sharks are not protected. But the policy of the country says that you cannot just export shark fin as shark fin. It can be the difficulty here is that when a fisherman goes to the sea and he is casting a net, he cannot put a board saying that the shark should not enter into the net. Fishermen get sharks, and what they say is that the policy is that the shark should land on the shore with the fin intact, and then it should not be cut separately and sold as a separate thing. There are gray areas in this particular situation, especially in shark fin trade. It is internationally banned under CITES. Many species are protected. Within India, Indian land and the waters of the union, the country's limits, the Wildlife Protection Act is applicable, and there are restrictions. Not only shark fin or shark, but also there are things like seahorses and sea cucumber, which are traded. Both are protected under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Marine trade is marine wildlife trade, or illegal marine wildlife trade is a serious area where government is bringing out new policies and new practices to reduce the impact of the trade. But at the same time, we have to look at the fishing community and their concerns, and ensure that there is a balance between both of this.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hi.
Sir,
Hi,
may I ask
Suraj
a
Goswami
question?
again.
Can't hear.
May I ask a question, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Sir, this is Lydia here from St. Joseph College.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that India does not allow animals products to be traded outside. So how is a Tibetan antelope being welcomed inside the market of India and the shawl being sold here?
Completely illegal. I mean, the Tibetan antelope is killed in Tibet, and the wool is collected there, and it is smuggled through Nepal or Tibet into India. There is no legal import happening. It is completely happening illegally. For example, I can tell you a small secret. Like, people travel across the Indo-Nepal border in the smuggling areas. They actually smuggle the wool in matchboxes. I mean, some of the smugglers actually stuff wool in matchboxes and smuggle it. So even that small quantity is very much valuable. So it is completely smuggled. It is not legal. And the manufacturing of the shawls are also not legal. It is completely done illegally. The entire process of bringing wool, transporting, trading, and manufacturing of the shawl and exporting it, it is completely done illegally. And there are a lot of practices like misdeclaration of goods, or hiding it with other things. There are so many practices in this business, and it is totally illegal business. It is not having any legal backup.
Sir, one more thing. If the forest officers are knowing the passageway, especially to Nepal, and it is smuggling to Nepal, then can we just block it or prevent that?
No, there are laws, but a smuggler is always on the lookout of finding innovative ways to smuggle it. If you go to the Indo-Nepal border, still it is a porous open border. There are hundreds of people move across the Indo-Nepal border without any checking. It's a good faith still. With Bhutan, we have a porous border. People come and go. Nobody checks them. Things will be probably different when you have a border with China or Pakistan. But our porous border is misused. Also, the airlines, how can you find that? There are people who stuff Shatush wool in their jackets and bring it to airports. I mean, if somebody lands in Delhi airport wearing a jacket with which is stuffed with the Shatush wool in that, probably very difficult for officers to find. So it is not always possible. I mean, smuggling techniques are very tricky for government, officials to discover. So that's the problem.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome.
Hi, Suraj Goswami again.
Hi.
Hello. Am I audible to you?
Yes, faintly, but you can increase your voice a little more.
Sir, in temperate forest, the trees of the Devdar, fair spruce, badly destroyed by annually then how can we conserve both the community together?
Could not hear the question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible to you?
Yeah.
Sir, in temperate forest. The trees of Devdar, fir and spruce badly destroyed by black bear, then how can we conserve both the community together?
See, black bear has a complete right to do whatever it wants with the Devdar tree. It's a wild animal. The laws does not applicable to the black bear. For him, it is the habitat. The black bear wants to climb the tree and destroy it. It is fine. It is not governed by our law. So consider it as part of the nature. I mean, how can you stop an elephant from destroying an orchid, or from destroying a tree and eating it? That is the rule of nature. So don't worry about a black bear destroying a devdar. People create more damage to the devdar than black bear. So
Thank you, sir.
see, let me add. I say that a spotted deer is a protected animal in the wild, and the tiger is also a protected animal. But the tiger has a complete right to hunt the spotted deer and eat it. So that's the rule of nature. So no worry about it.
As a forester, how can we conserve both things? Because both the community is valuable uh, as a natural resources.
Trust me, no damage is going to happen. No forest is going to disappear because of a black bear. Black bear is needed because some trees has to be destroyed, some trees has to be chewed upon by the bears. Then only the new trees will grow. So that is the law of nature. Leave it to the nature that it will manage. Don't worry. I mean, if there are no human beings cutting down the trees and killing the bears, the forest will survive. The forest will find its balance and it will survive. Every forest, every patch of pristine forest in this country or in this world is evolved. It is not, you will not see the same forest. You go after 1 year, there will be a new tree, there will be a new branch, there will be a new animal. So that's how the forest grows, or the wild grows. So leave it to the nature to manage. Remember that we are not gods. We don't have full control over everything.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So there is this question about the severity of the punishment for poachers, middlemen, and the actual client.
Sir, could you please repeat it? I could not hear it completely. I heard the
participant. Yeah, the participant has asked, what is the severity of the punishment for the poacher, middleman, and the actual client?
As per the law, for example, let's take an example. If I kill an elephant on the instruction of somebody who promised to supply the tusk to a buyer, all three of us are equally responsible under the law. So in this case, the Section 9 of the Wildlife Protection Act will be applicable on me, who actually pulled the trigger and killed the elephant. So that is, I am the culprit. Then there is a provision in the law for abatement. So the abater who actually asked me to kill the elephant, he also will be booked under Section 9 of the Wildlife Protection Act for abetting the crime. And the person who financed my source also will be booked as an abetter under Section 9 of the Wildlife Protection Act. So the law is very clear that whether you actually do the action or you are a cause for the action, you will be booked under the same provisions of or same sections of the act. So abatement is clearly defined in the Wildlife Protection Act. So they all will get the same punishment if proven guilty.
Somebody wants to know, what is Shatush shawl trade still happening as before?
Yes, there is Shatush trade still happening. The weaving is still happening and the trade is still happening. The Wildlife Crime Control Bureau has seized the large number of shawls in last few months from the airports, before the lockdown. So the trade is still happening and there is still demand in the illegal market across the world.
The next question is, are there any special laws to prevent sale of insects as ornaments?
My answer is that if the insect is listed under the Wildlife Protection Act, then it is illegal. If the insect is not listed under the Wildlife Protection Act, there is no legal action can be taken. So it is all about whether the insect which is sold as ornament is protected under the Wildlife Protection Act, then only the forest officer can take action. Otherwise, no.
If there's any participant who is willing to ask, can ask.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good evening, sir. So my question is, we know about this joint forest management where a part of people are given access to a part of the forest to take care of it, like the local community members or the villages. So do you think that these villages also do wildlife trading on the other hand without the management people knowing about it because they are getting access to a part of the forest?
Right. That is a very serious question. And may I ask a question back to you? How old are you?
Sir, I'm 23.
Oh, 23. So it's a senior person. So I thought it's a young student. I mean, of course, you are a young student, but it is a nice question. And it is a very learned question. So I appreciate that question. Yes, under the JFMC, there are rights given to the people except hunting rights. Every other right is given to people under Forest Right Act, but hunting rights are not given. And if somebody is hunting in the forest where they have got rights under the Forest Right Act, it is illegal. Hunting rights are not given as part of Forest Right Act. Do you?
So what if they do this without the knowledge of the management committee people?
Then it is illegal. Anything which is not, I mean, if you steal a cookie from your mother's cookie jar without her knowledge, it is illegal. You don't have, correct? So it's the same way. Yes. If the management is not aware about your illegal activity, it should be considered as an illegal thing.
Okay, sir. So, and I have another question. Sir, invasion of alien species into a particular area is also counted as an illegal crime. So, what are your views about it?
Well, you cannot book a plant or animal under the act. Correct.
Okay,
but
yes.
But there are provisions in the Wildlife Protection Act, there are provisions in the Forest Protection Act that if you are damaging the ecosystem, if somebody is causing damage to the habitat, and if you can prove that by bringing that particular illegal alien species, you actually caused damage to the habitat or the protected area, then it can be booked. It can be booked under Wildlife Protection Act. There are provisions, but that is very tricky. And also the Biodiversity Act. So these two things can be invoked. It's a tricky situation, but because you cannot take action against the species, but you may be able to take action against the person who actually brought the species in. Still, there will be a lot of gray areas in this particular scenario.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you for the information.
Good question, sir.
Sir, hello.
I can't hear.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, you mentioned about some tribal communities in Andamans being allowed for some of the wildlife hunting and trade.
Yeah.
So some people, some tribal communities, even in northeast India, are there which do these activities, and we see many blogs on YouTube or any other social network where they openly hunt wild animals like giant squirrels and many birds. So what are the laws for that?
See, only the Andaman communities, the Jarwas and a couple of other, I think Ogis also, a couple of the Andaman communities got this privilege under special rules. But otherwise, across the country, the rule is that you cannot hunt. Whether it is a tribal, the law is not the Wildlife Protection Act is not giving you any exceptions under the Wildlife Protection Act. If you are a tribal, you can hunt. There are no provisions in the Wildlife Protection Act. But still, people, yes, of course, it is a non-fact that people in Northeast hunt. So technically, it is illegal. but there are limitations, or there are concerns, or there are cultural situations where the law implementation is it's not possible or lacking. So we have to be culturally sensitive also here. I absolutely say that if it is a tribal in Nagaland killing a giant squirrel, he may be booked under the Wildlife Protection Act if you can implement the act there. I have been interacting with officers and communities in Northeast. For example, we have a project, our organization have a project in Manas, where the community's practice of hunting is there. I mean, there are certain communities there, they do hunt. I mean, for them, it's a regular thing. They don't consider it as an illegal thing. But then we work around with the community, and wean away them from these practices of hunting. So that is the only way. You cannot just go and impose law saying that my law says that thou shall not hunt in the forest. No, you have to work with the community and change that cultural thing.
Yes, sir. I saw a video on YouTube. It was a travel vlogging site. So there, the man had gone to visit Arunachal Pradesh, and he was living in with some tribal communities there. So when he visited the hut, there were just skulls of many animals on the wall, and they were cooking some squirrels and that all. So it is illegal.
Pure definition of the law, illegal. Let's look at black and white. It is illegal under the provisions of the law. It is illegal. There is no doubt about it.
Hello, sir. This is Vijay.
Yes.
Firstly, I want to thank you for having this extremely informative session. And I have a couple of questions. And the first one is pertaining to the zoo culture. I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yes. So the first question is regarding the zoo culture and why it's still prevalent. And considering the fact that zoos and rearing animals in captivity has a lot of negative effects, and do you think the positives still outweigh the negatives and zoos are still relevant to this day?
Zoos are highly debated across the world, but zoos also play a major role in some conservation. Don't write off zoos at this point of time. Yes, few years back or few decades back, zoos were the place where a lot of people went and saw a tiger in captivity, or an elephant in captivity, or a hyena in captivity. Currently, the zoos are not acquiring animals from the wild. Currently, zoos are acquiring animals between zoos. So it is a captive animal population. And as long as it remains strictly as a captive animal population between one zoo to another zoo, it may not be causing much of a harm in sense of conservation. And also some zoos are very much active in conservation, in captive breeding, that they bred animals in captivity and send them back to wild. The zoos played a major role in restocking some of the animals into wild. So that way there is a positive side. But I don't think in the longer run, some of the zoos, like the smaller zoos, will have a future where you house animals in small cages and bit of not so good condition. But some of the larger zoos still can play a major role in conservation and urban education, where people can go and learn a few things about animals and wildlife. It's all about how you manage your zoos. Some of the international zoos, some of the European zoos, or many international zoos are actually becoming good examples of conservation education. So let zoos, I mean, currently no zoos are acquiring animals from the wild. They acquire between zoos. So then there is no problem. They are not creating a conservation threat, at least.
Thank you, sir. I mean, and the second question.
Neutral to a zoo. I don't have a positive or a negative, but I'm personally neutral to a zoo.
But in the long run, do you still think they're relevant or they are required?
Depends how the zoos evolve. If you think about zoos as jails to keep animals, they may not. But if you convert zoos into education centers and conservation breeding places, then they will survive and they will go ahead. It depends on how you turn the zoos into.
Thank you, sir. And the second question is regarding the famous wildlife agencies such as National Geographic or BBC Earth and so on, and how these are so important in spreading information as well as creating a narrative towards wildlife conservation. But along the recent years, there have been several accusations regarding the spreading of false narratives and also telling stories that might be useful for a particular region rather than not concentrating on the other regions and so on. So what is your take on this?
There are good reporters and bad reporters, or good cinematographers, good filmmakers and bad filmmakers. I mean, it depends on what they narrate and how they narrate. And there are, see, Discovery or National Geographic actually played a major role in sensitizing and educating a lot of us. I say that I'm a victim of Discovery Channel turning me into a, I mean, it played a major role. I used to watch a lot of shows on Discovery Channel. It educates us. I mean, yeah. So that way, it is a good thing that, you know, they brought animals and wildlife to our drawing rooms. Yeah, but there are perceptions. There are you know, views of each reporter or each filmmaker, and it is up to us to, you know, select what is right and what is wrong. Probably you're referring to BBC's bit of a controversial documentary on Kaziranga, the killing fields. They narrated they portrayed the Kaziranga forest staff as you know, bit of a trigger happy forest staff. Let me tell you the truth. I mean, this is again my truth or my perception. Can take it that way. Without those gun holding and courageous, brave forest staff protecting rhinos in the tougher times, we may not see. I mean, the survival of rhinos depends on their courage and their protection and their dedication. If they were not there, I don't think we have rhinos today. So the international channel BBC, I mean, a reporter went to Kaziranga and he had a different view about it, and he narrated his view. That was his job. But it is our responsibility to understand what is right and what is wrong. That's it. I mean, let them talk what they want, and you accept what you want.
Thank you, sir.
If there are any more questions from the participants.
Namaste, sir.
Yep.
So wildlife trafficking is facing a major issue from illegal activities from the people, but it is happening exactly around the broader boundary areas, as per my perception. In that case, can we have the monitoring access like thermal imaging in collaboration with ISRO or some other agencies, so that we can track down people entering the forest area and going back and their activities via thermal imaging? Will it play an important role or help us any chance, sir?
There are a lot of technology innovation in protection, especially in tiger reserves. They have already installed the thermal cameras, and agencies like the NTC, National Tiger Conservation Authority, are very much in the forefront of implementing technology in protection, and it is already undertaken and it is happening across the country in many places. Thermal imaging and night vision cameras, drones, and live feed, all these things, technology is being used, and there is more research happening in this field, and that is technology will help us to you know, monitor better.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I see two participants, Raghavendra Kumar Singh and Kaushal Kumar Patel. You can unmute and proceed asking.
Hello. Sir, this is Raghavendra Kumar Singh from Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh.
I think we know each other.
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I want to know that what is the solution of controlling local wildlife trade like hatta jodi and that, sir? How we can control that?
You can control. I mean, hatta jodi is something which again we were involved my team was actually one of the first to discover the truth behind Hatha Jodi. It's all about creating awareness and also, ensuring that each instance of selling Hatha Jodi in the local market is, or any product like that is informed to the local forest department and actions taken. Um, small. I mean, if it is a isolated incident, also ensure that action is taken, so that will reduce the trade. It may not happen overnight. It may take few months or years to bring the trade down. But I think you also will agree that the trade in Hatha Jodi is not happening as it used to happen 3 years back. The trade must be
Yes, sir.
the trade is down probably to 98% is gone, and maybe 1 or 2% trade is going on. So let's consider that we managed to restrict 98% of trade. 2% trade is happening, and that last 2% is very difficult to achieve. But over a period of time, we will be able to achieve it.
Yes, sir. And another question is that, sir, how we can control that snake charmers are banned in India, sir? But in central India, we are facing many
Well,
problems
again,
regarding snake charmers.
my answer is discourage, don't allow. I mean, I worked with the snake charmers in both ends, discouraged them, and also worked with them as a community. Politically, I will say that create unfavorable working condition for them in your locality. So that's all. That's all I can say in polite words. So create an unfavorable working condition for them in your locality so that they don't come back there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Kaushal Kumar Patel. Yes, please go ahead asking question.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah, exactly. Kaushal, it's not audible. If you could be a bit louder.
No, I can't hear anything.
No, his audio is down. Any other participants want to ask the question, or will wind up? Our resource person was magnanimous enough to take so many questions.
Not that, sir. Let me interrupt you, and I enjoyed answering these questions because
Yeah,
this is.
we are very thankful. Thankful to you. Yes, go ahead. Somebody wants to ask?
I don't think.
Yeah, I think we'll wind it up. I now ask Dr. Putul to render the vote of thanks. With that, we'll wind up. So it was an amazing session. Thank you very much for your patience and this information that you have given to every participant's question. Thank you for your patient answering. Dr. Putul, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jaishankar. I'll now propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Department of Zoology at the end of the second day of the National Seminar on Wildlife Conservation. First of all, let me thank the speaker of the day, Mr. Jose, who was whose talk was very insightful, and the discussion that followed was all the more good. And the take-home message from this should be that as participants of this seminar, this talk will go a long way in creating awareness amongst all of us to be aware of what we are purchasing, so that the demand for animal products are less in the market, and if the demand is less, automatically the thing will be discouraged. I would also like to thank the organizers, Dr. Jaishankar M, representing our Department of Zoology at the St. Joseph College, and Mr. Avinash, representing Arosha, and all my colleagues, led by Mr. Thomas Zakaria, who has chipped in all possible way for the smooth conduct of the seminar. I would thank all the participants who were very active, and that is the reason our webinar overshot the schedule by at least half an hour. There were so many questions, and I would like to thank our student volunteers, to name a few: Anukriti, Alan, Soumya. They are our technical support, and they worked very hard to for sending in the invitation mail and everything for the smooth running of the seminar. So that concludes our second day. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
One last mention. It was supposed to be Dr. Sabita from our department to moderate. She is also stuck in Kerala because of the network issue. Couldn't so we are missing her. Hope she'll join. The other volunteers include Abhijit, Loch, also thanks to them. Thank you, Dr. Putum. I think we'll now end this meeting for the second day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for wonderful information.